one of those people that runs towards the trouble rather than away from it.
But it's probably the hardest job I've ever had.
You have to get involved.
It's a matter of life or death.
You have to be the kind of person that can accept that.
We have a lot of natural disasters.
The normal problem is that people tend to work too long because they're so concerned to do things.
Every time you think you've seen the worst, there's something else that comes up.
Tempers can get short.
The long hours, the pressure.
I deal with it in the moment and then I take it out on my teammates.
It's a very tricky business.
The job is most of my life.
I'm on the emergency relief team. I'm called to go out into the field if there's an emergency. And there was one that had a whole lot of challenges that came with it. And that was when we went to relocate orangutans from burning forests in Indonesia. Our passports were almost taken by the Minister of Forestry himself because he heard from the local police in the area that we were in that we had gone into the fire area without the right permits. The local police said, we want these people, we want them dead or alive. They can't really grasp why animals are in need or why we're coming to help the animals. We all have very different backgrounds and we do very different things in the field, but we never knew how each other would ultimately operate. And so that was tough, to be thrown into the field and expected to do something when you've never worked together and you don't know what the other person can actually do. We're still learning how to operate. It's hard to walk away from animals.
The first ever response I did was to the Baghdad Zoo. We got a call from Department of Defense. They needed assistance. You get this call and you're like, how do you feel about going to Baghdad? Our job at the time was to go out there to assess the condition of the animals that were remaining, that we were there to make sure that the animals had some very basic needs met. When we got there weren't that many animals left. What was there were some large carnivores and large cats, a few bears. We were getting reports that dogs were going around in packs and that they were eating a lot of the human carcasses. It was really hot. It was pretty amazing. IFA has a pretty tight little team.
I'm the manager, I'm the person holding the purse strings, making the political connections, doing the sensible things, making decisions as whether we're going to do something or not. The first thing I did actually was, IFA was asking me would I be available to come on the big cat rescue? It was 24 tigers in a backyard in New Jersey. It's possible to buy a tiger on the internet for the same price as a Labrador puppy. A lady who was, I believe, a circus star, and when she retired from the circus she was given 2 tigers. Unfortunately they were male and female, and they do what tigers like to do. They were shut in tiny little corridors, and these animals hadn't been out of there for years. The authorities wanted to confiscate them. And that's where we stepped in and said, well, we'll help move these and find a sanctuary and support them in the sanctuary. So it's great to get out into the field and to actually see animals and see the work.
I'm the ER link and an ER responder. We usually go in right behind human relief, but often we will arrive and be the first ones. We are ready and prepared and have the equipment to jump on a plane within hours. Usually what happens, you jump on the scene and you don't know the people you're suddenly either bunking with or jumping into vans with. You know, it's amazing how when you go and you respond, your adrenaline kicks in and you go on autopilot. So normally if I were to see what we see on television home, I'd probably be weeping. But when you're in the moment, you just don't. It gets a little spicy and a little interesting on the home front because I have 2 kids. That's where it's explaining to them suddenly, Mom's going, don't know when she'll be back. Bye.
I really love my work.
It gets frustrating.
How do you start from the ground up?
You just never know when disasters are going to come.
Animal sufferers, not just people.
When you help animals, you're helping people.